Hey y'all, and welcome to Geospatial Experiences. I'm your host, Melissa Mayo, and I'm an Esri engineer on the product team. This podcast focuses on the application of geographic information. Let's go on a journey together with some of my amazing coworkers, along with Esri customers, partners, and distributors who are doing really cool work in the field of GIS. Today, I'm joined by Mohan Punnam from Esri's utility network team with us. Welcome to the podcast, Mohan.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm really excited to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. You are, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're a product engineer here with the utility network team at Esri, correct?
That's right.
Mhm. So we're going to get into some interesting conversations today, and I know you'll have a lot of good insight for us. So I'm looking forward to it. We're going to jump right in if you're ready.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Tell me about your geospatial experiences. Tell me about your journey. How did you get started in GIS, Mohan?
I did my undergrad in urban planning back in India. At that time, I had a few courses on GIS. Uh, Part of that, I learned ArcView 3 and ArcInfo 7 at that time. That's the first step that I got into GIS. And then after my undergrad, I worked in India for a couple of years as urban planner. At that time, I used again ArcView, ArcInfo, and ArcGIS 8 to prepare the land use maps and zoning maps for planning purposes. Uh, that's how I started using the GIS software uh, as part of my work. And then when I came to US to do my master's in GIS, the real GIS career has started.
Were you in the Hyderabad area? I know we chatted
Yes.
before. Okay, you were. Okay, that's I thought I remembered that correctly. So that had to be interesting. I mean, obviously you're from there, and so that's gonna be more of commonplace for you. But it seems like it would be so interesting to be doing GIS, in a different area where things are so much different than they are to the U.S.
Yeah. And the matter of fact, the first company that I worked in Hyderabad was actually a GIS company, mainly preparing the GIS data for different organizations like utilities, mainly
Mhm.
uh, converting the paper maps into digital format. And they had a planning department, so that's where I worked. And so I had my colleagues in the side who were doing these projects on the side.
Mhm. So then when you came to the US, I know you have a background in the utility space. Did you move to utilities and doing GIS?
Yes. So after my master's in GIS from Eastern Michigan University, started my job as a GIS developer at Superior Information Technologies, and where we got the projects uh, from different organizations. The first project that I worked for a water utility, where we had to develop a web application um, using Flex API.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's how got into utilities and learned more about them, and later did different projects like uh, integrating GIS with asset management systems, and slowly I got into that, and then worked for a gas company, a pipeline company in Oklahoma, and also did some consulting work with um, other utility companies in the US.
Can you tell me about some of the interesting projects you worked on when you were in the gas sector?
The one of the interesting project I could say is
And you don't have to give names either, by the way. You can just give us
yeah,
generalizations. So yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So uh, the gas, especially in the gas industry, as you know, the safety is very important for them, and there was a requirement for these gas companies to do the um, find the pipes that are that need replacement immediately or needed attention. So for that, they need to generate this 553 report. Actually, this was my, I think, a second project that I worked with engineers and um, uh, the people in the company who have been doing these 553 maps for so long on the paper and taking so long for them. So I developed a tool in ArcMap that can generate these maps much quicker in a couple of minutes. So this project is to do like finding the 5 leaks within 500 feet uh, over the last 5 years or 3 years.
That's where the
So
553 comes from, correct?
553, that's right.
Gotcha.
So these maps, so they are going to show the pipes that are inside those polygons that need immediate attention due to the risk uh, and the number of leaks that are happening in that area.
Because you and I've talked about this before too. So if you have more leaks in a given area, that's a higher risk for the pipeline area or for the pipelines in that area, correct? If you've got one leak or two leaks, that's not great. You don't want that. But if you have a lot of them in a given area, then that's a much higher risk that you're going to have a failure point, correct?
Correct. That can have a bigger damage than like even one or two leaks in a remote area. And if these like high density leaks are close to the buildings or any public places, that can cause bigger damage, and so that they need to be prevented or need to be taken care.
So if you can identify these areas, then that really allows the planners to be able to say, okay, hey, this is an area that we need to do something about because this is a high risk issue. This could cause us major problems. It's helping on their cost reduction because if you don't identify that and you do have a big incident like that, that's much more expensive than going ahead and handling it. And then the safety element comes in as well, right? Because you're trying to maintain your safety and your reliability. You don't want to have an incident because, of course, that could be detrimental to, people and area and buildings, like you said. So there's a lot of different parts and pieces to this puzzle that this product and this process that you created can assist with and help that gas company with, right?
Yeah, definitely. And the other important thing here in this report, um, as we said, like if you see one leak or two leaks, okay, they may not cause the damage. But the people who are inspecting these leaks, okay, they may be just finding that one leak, right? And suppose, say, okay, if they find another leak, maybe in the next 3 months, but closer to that, right? They're not finding all of them on the same day. But so as they're finding these leaks in the over time, there may be different people finding and who may not aware of the other leaks that are happened within the same area.
Gotcha.
So when we put them on the map in GIS and find out, oh, okay, in the last 3 years, these are all leaks happened very closely. And now let's go and see what's happening there. Is it because of the age of the pipe, or is it due to the corrosion of the pipes, or what's happening? And then we need to go and address that. Right?
That's what I was about to ask. What might be causing some of that? Is this a pressure issue? Is it a corrosion issue?
Exactly. So yeah, when we see individually, we do not understand, but when we put them all together in the GIS, that helps us to understand the problem.
Well, and it sounds like too when if you're looking at maybe the records of okay, we've had these incidents and we've got them in a spreadsheet, for instance. I'm just pulling this out. You have them in a spreadsheet, and then that's going to be mixed up, and even with other areas that have been repaired. But even if you sort that and go, okay, I've got a grouping of this, that still doesn't translate the same message as getting it onto the map where you have a visual representation. You can see it, spatially. You can do everything that we can do. We can work all of our GIS magic on it at that point, right, Mohan? And so it
Yes,
seems like that really would bring it to life and bring it, to the forefront of someone's attention that, hey, we have an issue right here that we really need to address.
exactly. Yeah, you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. And that is the main reason that I chose this project as an interesting one that I can share.
Mhm.
So
So
yeah,
you transitioned from working with water to working with the gas utilities, right? So
correct.
how is that transition? How is that transition for you? Is it a lot different working in a gas space and doing GIS for a gas utility versus doing GIS for a water utility, or are there similarities? How did you shift?
Um, I think they share a lot of similarities in terms of
Mhm,
the way they operate and they send the um, material in the pipes. It's that's what like it's the same.
mhm.
The way they build the network and all of that is the same. It's just the material that we send through the pipes is different. Um, that's how I felt like when I transitioned from water to the gas, and the terminology is a little bit different, but and the main other important thing that I learned is gas um, companies consider more about the safety. Um, uh, it's due to that nature of the things that the damage that it can do
Yeah, if
compared
you
to
have a
water.
pipeline explode or something, that's a whole
Exactly,
that's a whole different animal than a water
a water
main.
pipe burst. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, you got it. So that's what yeah, that's why there is more safety aspect in the
Mhm.
operating the gas pipes than water.
And my dad actually used to work for a gas company here in Alabama, and so I can remember him having call outs and having to go and check on things. He worked at the total stations and he did all kinds of stuff. So I do remember him talking about a lot of that type of stuff about the safety and everything too. So. Mhm. I just think it's really interesting. So, okay, so we transitioned you from water to gas, and then did you shift and transition from gas to Esri?
So when I was working for OneOak, which was actually a pipeline and
Mhm.
also a distribution. It had both
Okay.
in the same company.
Mhm.
Um, I I worked for OneOak as a consultant in the starting and
Mhm.
in the distribution division. Later, I joined as a full-time employee, and
Mhm.
at that time, I got exposed to the pipeline as well, not only the distribution. The then when OneOak was separated into two companies, so I had to move to One Gas, which is a pure distribution company in 3 states.
Mhm.
And from there, I came to Esri, and again, so if you want to know more about how I came to Esri and why, it's
Sure. Absolutely. Of course I do.
so,
I'm nosy on here, Mohan. I know all the good stuff. That's why we're doing this.
uh, so when I was working for One Gas, and I felt like okay, so I'm in the utility space and I'm helping these about 3,000 the GIS users inside the company with my day-to-day activities. Right? But if I go to Esri, I can help thousands of users who need help in the GIS and also in the utility space. And so I can use my experience and the skills that I learned over the years. Um, that is the main reason I had wanted to move to Esri. And also Esri, as you already know, Esri is the leader in GIS and um, almost uh, as far as I know, almost all the utilities, most of the utilities in the US use Esri software, and so I can help all these utilities, not just one.
I just love your motivation in that you have your background in the water and the pipeline industries, but you just had this drive to really be able to help not just that specific company that you worked for that you were consulting for. You wanted to help all of them and then help anybody else that you possibly could. You really wanted to expand your reach for taking your skill sets, your knowledge, your background, and your focus and commitment to being able to apply that to a broader range of people. I just love that so much, Mohan.
Yeah, that's what motivated me, and it still motivates me to work at Esri. And when I go and attend the Esri conferences and meet all these people and help them.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about your conference experiences here in a few minutes. But tell me about the transition from being a customer to working for Esri. We've talked about your motivation, but that's a shift. It's definitely been a shift for me. So, what was that transition like for you?
Fine. So when I was working as a customer, so I was just using the software, right? So since I had all these years of experience, when I come to Esri, and the first thing, I think in the first couple of weeks, I was discussing with my team members and even in the other teams, okay, how our software can be improved, and what are the problems or the faced by the different users over uh, what I have seen over the time. Right? So that's what um, I'm trying to. I felt like okay, here to solve these problems, be an advocate for them, and uh, help them with whatever I have already learned, and also in future. So so for that transition, so I always wear my hat as a user. And even when I'm testing the software, okay, I test as a user, um, and give that feedback. Okay, if when I'm designing a tool or something, okay, I always think about as a normal GIS user how he's going to use this tool.
Well, I think that's huge. I think that's critical too, because that's what's so important about bringing people with customer experience inside of Esri, bringing that experience with them. And for those of us that have been there and have walked this path too, we are kind of that first line of defense for the customers almost. We bring that perspective, we bring that experience. We can communicate inside of Esri how would customers actually utilize this product, what makes sense for what we've seen and what we've experienced. And that's critical for the developers who are developing the software. They need and want to hear that. They really do value that perspective. So I think it's so important for us, those of us who have been customers, to keep wearing that customer hat, like you said. I love that line.
And yeah, I always do that when we are in the design meetings with the developers, even when we are designing the user interface for a tool. So I always think about, okay, um, how the user is going to use this tool, and um, will it uh, will it be user friendly?
Absolutely. So really, what is it like working at Esri on the utility team? What kind of things, you're talking about testing and, looking, working with the software and kind of, having that customer hat. What is it really like being on this team and being behind the scenes, if you will, Mohan?
So the for even coming to Esri, so my background when I started a career in GIS, I was always on the IT side of it. And so I was doing the custom application development for web, desktop, and also when I was working for a gas company, I was on the IT side to manage the enterprise applications, and uh, developing the custom applications and tools for them. So with that all experience on the IT side, now okay, it helps me to do some automated testing for the software for the utility network. So writing automated tests using SDK, and also with Python. Uh, I, I do the manual testing, and we do like a certification before we release the software. Um, also, we go to the conferences and do the presentations, show our new tools and anything that's coming new in the software. And also at the conferences, we hear from the customers the feedback and answer their questions as well. And also, since I joined Esri, I think at least 2 or 3 different tools I designed and worked with the developers to uh, bring them into the life, into Pro. So
Can
they are there now.
can
So
you tell us about them?
one of them is Error Inspector for Utility Network. Um, I so took that as a project when I joined. That was, we felt like, okay, it is a needed tool when people are moving from the utility network version 3 to version 4, where the errors that are being generated in the new schema are difficult to understand for the users. So we felt like an error inspector is going to help them. So we used the existing Esri's error inspector for the topology, and um, may, made it like a new one for utility network, for the utility network errors, and pull the errors from different tables and different places and show them all at one place. I
That
think it's a
sounds
real, I feel like it's a really a useful tool for the new users into utility network and understand these errors.
that's what I was about to say. That sounds super useful to be able to find those errors.
Definitely, yeah. Without that tool, yeah, it is hard for them to understand where they are.
Well, that plays into my next question for you, Mohan. I was about to ask you, how do you utilize your experience from the customer side of the house, like from your gas and other utility experience for the group? It sounds like, generating and customizing those tools, since you've been there yourself trying to identify things like that, that customer experience and knowledge will lead you to being able to, identify and create and help build things like that into the platform. But what else does it help with for you having the background that you do? How else can you contribute as a subject matter expert?
Not only the user experience, so right,
Mhm.
developing these tools. Like when I joined, if I'm not wrong, I was the only the gas expert in the utility network team. Right?
Mhm.
So that so
You were the guy. You
com-
were the one that had the experience, right? On
yes,
the inside.
so yeah, so that is like a, so all that gas experience and how these different sub networks are managed in the gas industry. So I can share all that knowledge with the development team here to make make it better, right? For example, like if we compare um, the electric industry, uh, their subnetwork sizes may be much smaller compared to the gas. Uh, so in the gas, I had seen a one in my previous company with 400,000 customers in one subnetwork. So that's a big difference when it compared to electric with a maximum of maybe 10,000 in one
Mhm.
subnetwork, right? So we had to understand, okay, when there is a big subnetworks like that in a utility network, how it is going to impact the performance and uh, usability of the tools.
But it seems like utilities, when they have, different, when you're looking at having that kind of difference in customers, you're going to manage that data differently. When you have a huge amount of data versus a smaller amount of data, and what do you need to do with it, and how do you, run processes, and what kind of tools do you need to be able to do your job? So that seems like that would be a huge difference in the way that you're applying and going through your work, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Mhm.
And at the same time, yeah, I'm part of the core utility network team, right?
Mhm.
And the utility network is a framework, I can say, that that works with all the different utility industries. It can be
Mhm.
water, electric, gas, or telecom, right? We are
Mhm.
not developing a software just for one industry.
Mhm. It's
So
applicable across the board.
exactly. So that's why we have to keep in mind, okay, does not matter what the subnetwork size is or what is it smaller or bigger, our tool should be able to work for all.
Mhm. So I'm thinking still on the conversation of the pipeline industry, Mohan. So let's talk about a little bit about the changes that have occurred across the pipeline industry over the years that you've been involved. What have you seen change? What have you seen that's changed within the industry over the years?
Okay, so even the one that I had seen, uh, one company used to manage their pipelines on the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now they are transitioned into GIS.
Mm-hmm.
So within the last, like I would say, okay, maybe a decade before, some companies may used to have the paper, but I think now they are on into the digital format.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that is a big change. And the now the more we talk about is like the data everywhere, anywhere, right? So taking these digital maps to the field, not just in the office, and do the inspections or do the uh, uh, creating the assets, or updating the asset locations from the field directly, um, where it used to take a lot of time when they were doing with the paper, or and take them back to the back office and do that. So it used to take a time. And now they can do all this like a live from the field using the mobile apps. That is a big change I have seen from, yeah, when I started from my career to now. And I see more into now in the future with tracking these assets using the sensors, live the information about the pressure and even the leaks that are happening or anything that can be done with the sensors, or the damages that are happening or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
they, yeah, they don't need to send the people or reduce the time of the reaction. uh,
Do you feel like in this age of, where we're automating everything and we're bringing in AI and we're doing, all sorts of things, do you think that's going to continue kind of the progression for not just the pipeline industry, but the other utility industries? They all want to take care of their customers. They've got emphasis on safety and reliability and all of that. But it seems like as technology progresses, maybe the utilities sometimes are a little bit slower to move forward with it because they do have these high level concerns. They have a lot of things at play that they have to keep in mind. The system has to stay up. People are relying upon their power, their water, their gas, working. So, do you feel though, like as we're moving into the future, technology wise, that those are going to have some impacts down the line on how the utilities do their business?
yes, definitely, especially in the safety, right? As you already touched that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
AI and all these live information, though, it's all about more information that we collect, and quicker we can take better decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that information can be readily available uh, in the future, and they can act much quicker and better.
What are your thoughts on utilizing GIS or the utility network in an emergency response or maybe even a restoration capacity within the gas industry or within the utilities?
Yeah. So you already know that, okay, the utility network is a service-based, built on service-based architecture. Right? The
Mhm.
main intention of doing that is to make the data available anywhere on any device at any time. Right?
Mhm.
So with that, So especially in the gas, suppose say, okay, a field technician is in the field, and if he's okay, if there is a leak very close by, um, previously, okay, they had to download the maps onto their like a mobile device or something. Now, since this is a service-based architecture and the data is directly connected, they can see that data immediately and okay, go and do the analysis on the leak and create that information or create that leak in GIS and send it back to the office.
Well, being
Mhm.
able to have the being able to have that information in the field has got to be super helpful, and is critical too for relaying information like that back in a timely fashion. Especially if they've got connectivity and they can get it back to the home office, and they can identify what do we need to do, who do we need to get out here, how can we get this resolved quicker. That has to be huge,
Yep,
for
definitely.
gas companies or utilities who are implementing it.
Yep, definitely. So that is a a big advantage with a utility network. All these utilities that take advantage of the service-based architecture with having a data everywhere, anytime.
Well, and I've got my emergency manager hat on too. So do you feel like, during an event, even if a pipeline company does have something happen, they can utilize, the utility network and other GIS capabilities and functionality to be able to respond to something happening, in real time in a much better, more efficient fashion. I feel like we talk about that a lot, but how does that apply, for the gas industry specifically?
Yeah. So in the gas, when there is a leak happens, so they need to classify that leak, and also they need to understand material or the pipe, the pipe. Okay, what is the pressure in that pipe at that moment, right?
Mhm.
So they need all that information immediately while,
Mhm.
and it's underground the pipe, so
Mhm.
they need that information much quicker. So for that, if they have the live information, they can understand, okay, what is the pipe size and what is the pressure in that pipe at that moment, and whether based on that they can take the different measures to uh, fix that leak. And
Mhm.
the other big thing is isolating that pipe, right?
Mhm.
Where we do the isolation trace to go and find uh, the nearest valve where they can go and shut off the valve uh, so that there is no gas when they are fixing that pipe.
That was what I was just
So
thinking about to ask you, is they need to be able to identify where they can shut it off quickly too, and be able to get in there and work and do the repair without having, gas in the pipe. So
exactly, yeah. So for that, if they have the live information, and with the right set of tools, they can identify those valves immediately, and the utility network provide those out of the box isolation trace tools to identify these valves that can be turned off immediately.
with the utility network moving forward, how do you think it can be improved? Do you have any ideas about that?
The other thing I think we did not touch is the utility network supports the 3D with the Z values, and where the utilities can take advantage of putting the elevation and the height of the assets and all that. Some companies do that, but that is going to make a big thing in the future where they can have um, the real size of the pipes, or even how, suppose say, okay, in the gas, all those pipes are underground and which they do not see, right? So, and how deep that pipe is not collected all the time. But if
Mhm.
they can put that into GIS, so they can visually see that how deep that pipe is, um, and when they're like doing any repairs on the roads or something, They can
Mhm.
visually see those, or when they are doing the inspections, if they are really doing near the pipe uh, or not.
And I would think too, being able to have that Z value and be able to get that extra depth and extra layer of information would just be super beneficial when they are planning to dig because you gotta, they're having to dig in this space, and if there's another utility somewhere nearby or something, I know they have it all spaced out and there's regulations for all of that, but just being able to make sure they know and they can visualize what they're working with, that has to add an extra level of protection from a safety component too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is, I think you already might have already known about 811
Mhm.
call 811. So before you dig, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
they definitely uh, take advantage of these 3D maps when they are marking the lines. If you have to dig for any reason, like even if you want to plant a tree in your backyard, you need to
Mhm.
know if you have any utility lines in that.
Mhm. Yeah, I had a plumbing issue. I had a sewer line leak, and they had to get them out to do all the markings even around my house before they could dig up the sewer line and replace it and everything. So it's a big deal because of course we have gas and water and everything in here, so they don't want to uproot and dig up something like that and break a different utility in the process of fixing the one that was already messed up.
Yep. So that is one aspect of the advantage with the z values. The other thing, so all we are talking about like outside under the ground, but there is another aspect inside the buildings, right?
Mhm.
Where we have cables everywhere in the buildings, so they can be tracked as well with the inside the utility network with the z values
Oh wow,
from
hadn't
one
thought
floor
about
to
that one.
another floor, and yeah,
That's interesting as well.
it can be the network cables or even uh, the water lines
Mhm. Are we
for
getting
the big
into
facilities.
ArcGIS indoors type stuff too?
Yes,
Coupling that with the utility network?
yes, yeah. I call this as like a one is a macro GIS and the other one micro GIS,
Mhm.
where we
Mhm.
do it just inside one facility or one building.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely. So, with your experience, how would you go about mentoring new users in the utility network?
if someone did not use GIS at all before, okay, if some and did not know anything about GIS, so coming into utility network, I mean, using Pro, um, I feel like okay, it is learning a new software as any other, right? But uh, we as Esri already have some tutorials and trainings on the utility network, and they can definitely help these the first-time users who wants to learn utility network. Um, there are instructor-led trainings as well, and they can definitely help with the terminology and all that. Uh, but the people who are coming from different uh, uh, like a geometric network or ArcMap used in the past, uh, it won't take much time. It's just finding the right tools where they are. Uh, I I don't know if I told you, I did not use ArcGIS Pro much even before coming to Esri, and I came to utility network with just a very minimum knowing of ArcGIS Pro, and I directly learned utility network, and I'm using the tools, yeah,
Mhm.
every day. So yeah, it's not. I feel like okay, it's not a big transition moving from one the old technology to the utility network with ArcGIS Pro.
And once they get used to it, it'll be second nature to them too,
Yeah,
as they make that transition and learn where the tools are and kind of identify the new processes. The idea is that, it gets easier as you go, essentially, is what I'm hearing you say.
yeah. I feel like it's just the tools are there, but in different places. You just need to find them where they are.
Mhm. Some of us art map, lovers, Still can't find things where they've been moved, Mohan. So we feel some kind of a way about it.
Because we had so many toolbars, and you need to
Yes.
find the right toolbar with the right tool.
Yes.
And
And you're
sometimes
just
the
like,
toolbar may be hidden too.
absolutely. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day who they're like, why? Why did it move? It was just right here. It was right there.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I don't have a good answer for that. Just got to keep things, new and fresh for everybody, right, Mohan? Got to keep everybody on their toes. So we chatted earlier. We mentioned it briefly, or you mentioned it briefly when you talked about conferences and talked about enjoying going to conferences to meet people and learn about their challenges and hearing kind of what their experiences are. So, is that what you would say is your favorite aspect or the best aspect of a conference?
yes, definitely. Um, as I said, I'm here to help the customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I need to hear what they are looking for, and also if and the, as a user, when they come to the conference, they come with the questions, right? Uh, they might have had some software questions with their data, so they bring up those questions and come to the showcase and ask these. So that and when I'm helping them as well, I also get the feedback on okay what they like and what they're looking for, or any improvements in the software. So that's how we build our tools and develop and more and more, and um, that is actually the, I would say, like one of the key things for Esri to come up with every new tool. Mostly it is coming from the feedback from the customers using in the conferences or in the community pages.
Yeah, I know as a customer that was so critical and so useful for me when I would go to a conference or if I sent, one of my team members to a conference, for them to be able to go and talk to Esri employees there, they're on the floor and have conversations about, hey, I'm having this issue, or, we're having this challenge. Can you help us? Or, this is something that we really want to be able to do and we can't do it. Let's talk to the people, who are there from Esri and see what we can do differently. And then they always seemed really willing to have those conversations with us. And we're really interested to hear, where our pain points were.
Yep. And also, as I said earlier, that we are developing a framework that can be used by all these different industries, right?
Mhm.
Right. And also different utilities, even within the gas, different companies operate differently, they manage the data differently. So it's hard for us to know each and every customer requirement.
Oh yeah, that would be
So
crazy difficult for you to know all the ins and outs in particular. So if you can get them there, if they can catch you there on site and tell you about it, then how
exactly.
that's one of the primary ways you're going to find out someone's doing something differently than you really had in mind.
Yeah. So even though I say that, okay, I worked in the gas for all these years, but I feel like I learn every time I go to these conferences and I hear from the customers. I may learn something new, right? That I did not know. So that also helps me.
Do you find that you have conversations with people not just in the pipeline industry, but any of the utilities? Do they end up kind of coming and chatting with you just because of your position and the fact that you're with the utility network team?
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. When I'm at the utility network, it's not just gas, even though, yeah, my background is that, but I get the questions from other industries as well. Uh, I started learning after I coming to Esri. I did not know much about electric or telecom, but after joining this team, I learned a lot actually.
Mhm. Drinking from the fire hose, right, Mohan? Get a little bit of everything. But
Yes,
that's gotta be super fun for you too. That has to be really enjoyable, to be able to learn about all these different areas within the utility systems and think about how can I help all these people? How can I apply my background and my knowledge and what we're trying to do to be able to help the most people that we possibly can.
you're right.
Mhm. Okay, I'm thinking about my next direction. I had something else for you on conferences, Mohan. Okay. Um, so you really like talking to the people when you go, but what's your favorite thing to do while you're there? Do you really enjoy sessions? Do you really enjoy the map gallery? Is there something in particular, especially at the UC, if you go to the UC or if you go to MGIS more, what do you like to do while you're there to help yourself as well, to help your growth?
I like doing the presentations, showing the new tools that we uh, develop here. So anytime we go to the conferences, like we might have released a new software already, or we are going to release one, right? So even we show some of the tools that are coming close to that conference sometimes, that okay, this tool will be available sooner. So I like uh, doing the demonstration of those tools and showing them, and also getting the questions on that. Like we hear the feedback immediately, right? Uh, so I like that. Then okay, we just okay release the software and hear later. Instead of that, okay, we get the feedback immediately from the audiences. And also definitely like at the showcase and discussing with the customers about their questions. And also I ask them the question if someone is like a new to utility network, or implementing the utility network, and their feedback, how it is
Is it,
working for them. And
yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you finish and then I'll ask you my next, thought that's dying to get out.
I feel like it's a two-way conversation. It's not that okay, they are there for to answer their ask their questions, but I also ask and get their feedback as well. So it's like a, a two-way conversation, and help each other.
Mhm. I was just thinking, I was going to ask, do you find it helpful too when you're there to pop into some of the customer papers, the paper showing what they've been working on, and just see how they are using the technology and see what they're doing as well? That's always really interesting. I think that's going to be interesting for me now that I'm an Esri person. It was always interesting for me before as a customer. I would go to sessions that weren't necessarily in my utility sector. I didn't necessarily just go to utility stuff. I would go to, things that were centered on education or things that were, more natural sciences or maybe more emergency management. It was just interesting to see what people were doing in other spaces so that I could get my brain going and go, all right, they're doing that over there. How can we possibly apply that over here? Is that helpful for you too, even though you're in that utility space, but just to see what people are doing?
Yes, definitely. I used to do that a lot when I was a customer, but
Mhm.
now I don't get that much time when I'm at the conference, because we will be busy at the showcase
Yeah.
talking to the people. So, but I focus more on the utility side, but definitely um, with the customers, how they are using the software will definitely help us. But internally, like especially, okay, even though we are always inside the utility network team, and I talk about all this the development that's happening in our team, but at Esri we see how the demonstrations from different teams, right? So suppose say what the portal team is doing, or the sharing team is like any new tools that they are developing,
Mhm.
we see their demonstrations during their development as well, and we can give the feedback as well. So it's not that okay, we are just focused on our software.
And it would be easy to do because you're in your lane and you're there in building them and you're doing your thing right there with your people. And so it would be really easy to get kind of tunnel visioned in on just utility stuff. But that's got to be good to be able to see what other people, because Esri's a huge outfit. I mean, it really is big and everybody's kind of in their area. And it would be easy to miss something that, some new changes that are happening here or something that's coming down the pipeline that way. So I think that's great that that you have the opportunity to get that exposure for what else is going on within Esri as well.
Exactly. And also I use this term in that my previous company was doing using GIS as an enterprise application, right? So when we say enterprise, okay, it's not just for one purpose, right? So they use across the board, right? Um, and also the utilities, they don't just use utility network, they use the other products from the Esri as well and other extensions, right? So for that, even the customers also come with those questions. Okay, how does this work with the utility network? Or okay, or like can we use this? I have utility network, but okay, uh, can I use something else on top of utility network?
Or how do I connect something like field maps to it? Or how do I connect, some other piece of the Esri suite, Esri product suite? I mean, it's really, they're turning it into kind of an ecosystem here. They're wanting to run multiple Esri applications and have it tied in so that that data, because the utility network becomes that golden data, right? It becomes the main source of the information that they need to work from. So they want that tied in with these other products and these other applications that they're using, and they need to figure that out, right?
Yeah, definitely, yes. And also the utility network is dependent on portal and enterprise and all that. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely it needs to be, yeah, depending on other software inside Esri as well.
So I'm going to shift gears with you a little bit and kind of get bigger picture with you about GIS as a whole. I want to know something, Mohan. I want to know what's your favorite use for GIS?
Favorite use for GIS?
Mhm. These are the hot
Um,
seat questions now. These are the ones to put the light on you, right?
yeah. So anything that we solve the problem and are making better decisions using GIS. Um, so since I was a planner, okay, so the GIS helps to build the future. Like we see the growth patterns and the development patterns, and make the help the planners to build the future.
Mhm. I think that's a great answer. Anything we can do to make things better for other people, right? Do you have anything in mind that you would say was the coolest use of GIS? Have you seen something super cool out there that, just really struck home for you?
Okay. Um, so the coolest one, I would say, uh, the again going back to the pipelines,
Mhm.
where we can like overlay different set of the different GIS data and finding the pipes that are uh, prone to damage, like because the as you already know, the pipes can get damaged due to different factors like earthquakes in that soil, age, or elevation. So when we put all this data on top of like a different GIS layers, one on top of the other, you will see a different picture of the. Uh, you can find the gas pipes that need immediate attention or can need to be replaced. So yeah, that was a cool analysis I was helping and doing in my previous experience.
Well, it's always amazing to me when you start adding in different data layers and kind of the way that GIS works and allows you to bring in any sort of information that you need that's available. And once you start overlaying it and you start getting the story that kind of I don't know that I want to say evolves, but the story that develops as you're bringing in these different pieces of data and you're running this analysis on it, that's always so neat to me. I just love that aspect of it. I think that's, for me, that's super cool about GIS and the fact that you were working on that and you're doing something that's going to be kind of revolutionary as far as, helping the pipeline field and helping that company to be able to identify issues quicker, faster, be able to respond better to it, just all across the board. That seems like that would be a super cool use of it, Mohan. How helpful do you find it as far as being active on something like on a platform like LinkedIn and being able to stay up to date on what's going on, in the industry and the people that you are connected with? Is it, do you just find that really, really helpful for you to be able to stay up to date and abreast of what's happening, in all of the areas and industries that you're connected with, that you're networked into?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Right. Because the utility network is still being adopted and implemented by so many people, right? And it's not fully implemented everywhere.
Mhm.
And so for that, we need to, uh, as we are coming up with these new functionality and also these different the solutions that are coming from Esri,
Mhm.
the people need to know and are aware of those. So for that reason, yeah, that's why I share mostly um, this information through LinkedIn. And also I read these different comments and the feedback from the customers, okay, on these when we share the um, new tools by colleagues from Esri.
Is it helpful to, when you're reading those comments, to just, is it almost like getting the comments from the customers at the conference, but you're getting it all through the year because you're looking at these comments that people are posting on LinkedIn? It's sort of a more continuous line of feedback for what are the customers experiencing and what are they thinking and how are they feeling about this?
Yeah. Um, Sometimes like the customers may be waiting for a tool for so long, years and years, right? So when we do that, like when we put that into the software and make a small video and post it in a LinkedIn, we see a tremendous response. And so those are the things motivate and help us to make our software better. So
That's awesome. It's really using all the tools in the toolbox, Mohan.
yes.
I have one more question for you, or maybe two. We'll see. Let's still talk about GIS a little bit as far as how has it changed since you've been in the business. We kind of talked a little bit about, utilities and how the utilities have changed. How really has GIS changed over the course of the time frame that you've been involved?
Uh, as I said, the amount of the data that was available in the GIS was way less compared to now. And now we have more information and more data available in GIS. That is the one big thing I see. And as I said, the more the information that we have, we can do better analysis and we can take better decisions. And the reason I'm saying that is previously we used to just maybe track the buildings or the location of a building or something like that. Now we are tracking the stuff inside the buildings. We are tracking the location of individual, small things. Right? So these things, so that is a big advancement in the GIS, and anything that has a location X, Y, and Z as well now. So that helps us to uh, make it a better decision and make our life a better future.
It feels like as the technology is progressing, we're able to get more and more detailed with the things that we can map, the things that we can, provide to people. The data can get more, can be more detailed. We can handle bigger sets of data. I'm thinking, big data analysis. I'm thinking
Exactly.
geoanalytics. I'm thinking about, the 3D pieces and the digital twins and all that. We're being able to move into a space where we're handling much larger data sets in different ways. We're able to, run analysis on those and get answers that we've never had before too.
Yep.
We're able to get into depth and detail with these 3D models and these digital twins of the systems, and really being able to showcase information in ways we haven't before. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, exactly. I think you said it in a better way than I said. Absolutely.
So I just have one last question, and really do you have any final thoughts for today before we wrap up? Is there anything that you didn't get to talk about that you had in mind or wanted to cover?
I think that's all. Thanks for this opportunity. And this is my first podcast anyway. And I feel like the place I'm working and with the utility network and my experience and help the customers, as I said. And I'm looking for having more discussions in the future as well and share my experiences.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on here, Mohan. I've enjoyed chatting with you today. You just feel like you're in such a good spot and your motivations are so true and so pure. I just really, I'm so excited that you're on the utility network team, that you're here at Esri and you're positioned to be able to, help so many people by utilizing and accessing your expertise and being able to provide that feedback and that information to your team members. I think you're just really well suited for where you are and what you're doing. I'm so glad I got to chat with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was really excited to chat with Mohan on the show this season. He's a subject matter expert in the pipeline industry with over a decade of experience in GIS. He has worked on some very innovative projects prior to coming to Esri, and since he's been here, he has put that experience and expertise to good use. He is a highly valued member of the utility network team because he provides so much great insight to the developers. Mohan is very deliberate in showcasing both workflows and use cases from the petroleum industry. That wraps up today's episode. Please feel free to reach out with your comments, or if you have an interesting topic that you would like to hear, please let us know. Thanks again for your time, and tune in for our next podcast.